All right. Good morning, everybody. I want to welcome you to today's webinar on municipal IT budget planning with VC3. This is a very timely topic right now as I know all of our cities are in the thick of budgeting. VC3 is an endorsed program of the Iowa League of Cities, and we are excited to have them present this topic for you today. And so I will turn it over to Hannah.
Hello, thank you everybody for joining today. I appreciate you taking the time, and I am just going to share my screen here. All right. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. So,
I am
like you,
not seeing it yet, Hannah.
okay.
Uh,
Let's see.
if you want to try one more time, and if it
Oh,
doesn't,
nope, it's because I didn't hit share. So.
there we go. Perfect. I was gonna say, if it doesn't work, I'll
Somebody
share
in
it for
IT
you.
having technical difficulties. There we go. All right.
Now we
So
can see it. Perfect.
perfect. All right, everybody. So yes, we are going to be talking about unpredictable expense to predictable roadmap, the IT budgeting journey. Uh, so let's get into it. So how does your city do IT budgeting? Pick one really that describes how you feel works best for your current environment. Either, we don't, or we categorize IT under a non-technical line item, such as office supplies or professional fees. Or we categorize IT under one line item, such as computers or technology. Each department budgets from their own IT. Or we have a detailed and centralized IT budget. So wherever your city falls on this list gives us a great starting point. The goal isn't perfection here. It's really just about understanding your current structure so that we can build a budgeting model that's predictable, transparent, and aligned with your operational goals. All right, so a municipal IT budgeting self-assessment. So let's see how many yeses you can answer to these questions. So do I know how much I'm currently spending on IT? Is my IT budget centralized and not spread across departments? Do I understand the breakdown of my IT expenses, such as hardware, software, personnel, services, cybersecurity, data, backup? Do I have a plan in place to replace aging or end of life hardware and software to avoid disruptions? Am I adequately budgeting for cybersecurity measures to protect sensitive municipal and residential data? Do I know the financial risks associated with a data breach or cyber attack? Are my IT support costs predictable? Do I know how long it would take to recover from a disaster? Do I have a roadmap for adopting new technologies or upgrading existing systems? And is it reflected in my budget? And lastly, am I investing in technology to improve public services and streamline internal processes? So count how many of these you can confidently say yes to, and this can tell us where we can strengthen your budgeting process. So IT budgeting conversation starters. Why does it matter how I budget? Well, your budgeting structure determines whether IT feels predictable or chaotic. A good structure gives you clarity, helps you plan ahead, and avoid surprise expenses. Are you overspending? It's easy to overspend on IT without realizing it, whether that's overbuying equipment, duplicating software across departments, or reacting to emergencies that could have been planned for. And lastly, are you underinvesting in cybersecurity and backup? This is the other side of the equation. Overspending hurts you financially, but underinvesting in protection can bring operations to a halt. Both extremes are risky. Why does it matter how I budget? If you lump IT into a single item, when everything is labeled as technology, you lose visibility into the real components. Cybersecurity, licensing, support, lifecycle planning. You can't make good decisions without detail. If you spread IT across different departments, you lose a unified view of your IT environment. Departments make well-intentioned decisions individually, but the city misses on strategic planning, volume discounts, coordinated upgrades, and consistent standards. If you incorrectly categorize IT, When IT is mislabeled, like putting licenses under office supplies, you lose the ability to track and plan your true IT investment. That makes forecasting and prioritizing nearly impossible. So, budgeting isn't just about numbers, it's about having a structure that gives you visibility and control. So, are you overspending? Unplanned IT costs lead to uncomfortable budget conversations. When IT expenses aren't anticipated, you're forced into reactive decisions, usually at the worst possible time when something breaks. If you're not tracking IT expenses, you can't control them. Cities often don't realize where their IT dollars are going, which makes overspending incredibly easy. Paying too much for equipment. If your purchases aren't standardized, you may be overpaying or buying from expensive vendors. Buying equipment that's overkill. Buying the wrong solution. Without guidance, it's easy to buy tools that don't solve the right problem. Duplicate purchases across departments. Or unnecessary replacement costs. Replacing things prematurely or replacing them because there wasn't a maintenance plan adds avoidable cost. So overspending isn't usually intentional. It's a byproduct of not having a clear, centralized budgeting structure. Before we get into the data, I want to ground this in real-world examples. So these headlines that I have shown here show what's happening to cities all across the country, big and small. We're seeing cities hit with ransomware, forced offline for days or even weeks, and dealing with expensive recovery efforts. These aren't isolated incidents, they're becoming more frequent. And with all of these cases, what all these cases have in common is that the impact is far more severe when cybersecurity and backup haven't been budgeted for proactively. So really the question isn't if this could happen, it's how prepared you are if it does. So 44% of cyber attacks target municipalities. Cities are one of the most targeted sectors in the US. Hackers go after municipalities because they know local governments often don't have the same cybersecurity budgets as private companies. More than 70% of ransomware attacks target state and local government. Nation states especially like to target municipalities. Access to user credentials continues to increase. Leaked usernames and passwords are everywhere now, which makes it easier for attackers to break in using legitimate credentials. Hackers continue to exploit vulnerabilities in outdated operating systems. When systems fall behind on patching or reach end of life, they become an open door. Attackers actively scan for these weaknesses. Cyber threat detection has become a bigger issue. Even if you have security tools, detection is getting harder. Threats are way more sophisticated. All of this really reinforces why cybersecurity and backup can't be an afterthought in the budget. So, the repercussions of poor IT budgeting. When cybersecurity isn't funded properly, an attack can shut down essential systems, email, public services, internal tools, sometimes for days. Without a solid backup strategy, you risk losing data permanently. That could include records, permits, financial information, or operational data. The cost of responding to an attack can be far higher than the cost of preventing it. And then there's poor IT support and planning. When systems aren't maintained or replaced appropriately, staff productivity drops and small issues snowball into bigger outages. Cyber attacks and system failures often take down payment systems. This directly affects residents and disrupts city revenue. From 911 dispatch to water billing, outages can halt critical services. Residents feel the impact immediately. When IT is stuck reacting to emergencies, everything else stops. Projects pause, staff sit idle, and leadership loses visibility. All of these consequences connect back to one thing: making sure cybersecurity and backup are properly funded so you're protecting your data, your staff, and your residents. Okay, I get it, but where do I start? So, IT budgeting foundations. We'll take a look at hardware, software, cybersecurity, personnel and services, an accounting approach, and a strategic approach. So, components of an IT budget, the hardware, servers and endpoints. Your servers and endpoints are the backbone of daily operations. Your desktops, laptops, tablets, and mobile devices. These need to be standardized, replaced on a life cycle, and supported properly. If they fall behind, productivity drops fast. Network infrastructure. These are components that keep your city connected. Your switches, routers, racks, UPS battery backup units, and network gear. If these fail or age out, you see outages, shutdowns, and service interruptions. This is why regular replacement planning is so important. And then, of course, you have your other hardware, so storage, printers, scanners, telecom equipment, and even data center components. These may not feel as critical as servers and switches, but they still need ongoing maintenance and life cycle planning. If they fail unexpectedly, staff productivity drops. So hardware isn't just about devices, it's about keeping your entire environment stable, secure, and predictable. Then we have the software component. So software is a capital expense. These are the big software purchases that sit on your servers or on staff computers. Operating systems, security tools, financial systems, specialized departmental applications, compliance tools, VoIP phone systems, VPN tools, and logging software. These often require upfront investments and come with multi-year support costs. Online and hosted services. More and more of what used to be on-premise is moving to the cloud. Things like email hosting, domain hosting, and database hosting. These typically fall under ongoing subscription costs, and they scale with your usage. Application licensing. So you'll often encounter one-time licenses, annual renewals, and user-based licensing. Each one impacts your budget differently, so understanding what type you're using helps forecast costs accurately. And then, of course, don't forget about software support. This is a big one that cities often miss. Even when you buy software, support isn't always included. Many systems require annual support contracts to stay secure and functional. If it's extra, it needs to be in the budget. Otherwise, you risk running unsupported or outdated systems. So, cybersecurity. Endpoint security is really your first line of defense. These tools protect every device that connects to your network, desktops, laptops, tablets. Firewalls. Think of your firewall as your digital gatekeeper. It controls what comes in and goes out of your network. Modern firewalls don't just block bad traffic, they detect threats, filter applications, and enforce security policies. Security awareness training. Your staff are part of your cybersecurity program. Training them helps them recognize phishing attempts, suspicious attachments, and risky behavior. Most breaches start with human error, so educating employees is one of the most impactful steps you can fund. Security monitoring and alerting. This is where threats are watched in real time. Monitoring tools look for unusual behavior, suspicious logins, or potential breaches, and they send alerts before things escalate. Without monitoring, you often don't know something's wrong until it's already too late. Third-party vulnerability assessments and penetration testing. These assessments identify weaknesses in your systems before attackers do. They provide an outside, expert perspective so you can fix issues proactively rather than reactively. Data loss prevention. Data loss prevention tools prevent sensitive information from leaving your environment, whether intentionally or accidentally. Cloud security. As more services move to the cloud, securing that environment becomes critical. Cloud security tools protect your data, whether it's stored in Microsoft 365, Google, or any hosted application. And then there's cyber insurance. Cyber insurance helps cover the financial impact of an attack. things like forensic investigations, legal support, recovery costs, and even public outreach. It's not a replacement for cybersecurity, but it is a crucial safety net. All of these pieces work together. Budgeting for your cybersecurity isn't just about tools. It's about protecting your operations, your data, and your residents. Now let's get into personnel and services. So personnel costs include everything tied to the people who support your IT environment, whether that's full-time staff or part-time roles. IT work often involves overtime during emergencies, training to stay current, and travel when hands-on work is needed. These are predictable costs that should be budgeted, not treated as surprises. You then have your services. Services cover any outside help you can rely on. Managed service providers, consultants, engineers, or vendors. This includes monitoring, managing backups, keeping your systems running, and maintaining your website. And then training. Technology changes constantly, and your staff need ongoing training to use systems effectively and securely. That could mean cybersecurity awareness for general employees or technical training for IT staff. If it has a cost, it belongs in the budget. All right, now we'll take a look at the accounting approach. So operational costs. Operational expenses are the recurring, predictable costs that happen every month or year. Things like licensing, subscriptions, support, and telecom services. These are ongoing costs that keep your IT environment functioning day to day. You then have your capital costs. Capital expenses are your big ticket items. These include hardware refreshes, major software upgrades, expanding your technology, or making security improvements. These are typically one-time investments you plan for in advance. And then you have your projects, which often include both. It can have a mix of capital and operational costs. For example, a new cybersecurity platform might have a setup fee plus ongoing subscription costs. Breaking out projects as their own line items helps you forecast properly and justify funding. So consider a risk-based approach to IT budgeting. When we look at our IT budget through a risk-based lens, the first thing we ask is whether we're putting enough resources into cybersecurity. If we're not, we're essentially leaving the door unlocked. Underinvesting here can expose sensitive data, disrupt city services, and make an easy target for cyber attacks. Another sign of a risky budget is when we're constantly reacting to breakdowns, servers failing, systems crashing, or data going missing. These issues don't just disrupt operations. They slow down staff productivity and hurt resident services. When foundational technology isn't funded properly, things like network upgrades, hardware refreshes, or security tools, big projects can stall out. Even well-planned initiatives can fail if the technology underneath them isn't stable. So, conduct an assessment of your environment and infrastructure. Taking a risk-based approach starts with understanding where your vulnerabilities are. An assessment shines a light on aging equipment, unsupported software, configuration gaps, and security risks. You can't prioritize what you can't see. And then prioritize your next steps. Not every risk needs to be addressed immediately, but the ones with the highest impact, like cybersecurity exposure, critical hardware failures, or broken backup systems, should rise to the top. Prioritizing ensures that your dollars go where they matter most. And then allocate your budget for those risks and contingencies. A strong IT budget includes money set aside for mitigation and contingencies. High-risk areas may need more funding upfront to prevent bigger problems later. This creates stability and avoids those surprise expenses that can derail a fiscal year. So, a risk-based IT budgeting poll. When was the last time I conducted an IT assessment or audit? Is my data backup tested and operational? Is my hardware end of life? Have I recently evaluated our ISP or telecom provider? And Are my IT support costs unpredictable? We'll get into each of these separately. So, when was the last time I conducted an IT assessment or audit? Seek out experienced IT professionals. An assessment should be done by someone who knows what to look for: aging hardware, security gaps, configuration issues, and risks that aren't always obvious. Provide as much information as possible. The more access and visibility the assessor has, documentation, system data, and infrastructure details, the more accurate and valuable that assessment will be. And then act on those recommendations. The most important step is what happens after the assessment, especially focus on anything labeled high risk. These are the items most likely to cause outages, cyber incidents, or expensive emergency costs if left unaddressed. So, is my data backup tested and operational? Your backup and recovery strategy has multiple components, and each one has a cost associated with it. These are things your IT budget has to account for every year so you're not caught off guard when something goes wrong. You have hardware. This is the physical equipment that stores your backups, whether that's a backup appliance, a storage server, or replication hardware. Just like any other equipment, these devices age, fill up, and eventually need to be replaced. Your software. Backup software manages how often your data is captured, how long it's stored, and how quickly it can be restored. Many platforms require annual licensing or support contracts. Then you have your cloud storage. If you're backing up to the cloud, there are ongoing storage fees. The more data you have and the longer you retain it, the more your cloud costs grow. Network bandwidth. Backups can consume a lot of bandwidth, especially if you're sending data offsite. Your network needs to be able to handle that load without slowing down your daily operations. Then there's the maintenance and support piece. Backups are not a set it and forget it. You need monitoring, updates, and periodic health checks to make sure everything is running correctly. And then there's the emergency funds. If something catastrophic happens, recovery costs are almost always higher than people expect. Having discretionary or emergency funds in your IT budget helps you avoid scrambling to find money during a crisis. From our experience, cities almost always underestimate what it actually costs to recover from a cyber attack or data loss event. That's why budgeting for backup and recovery needs to be proactive, not reactive. So some action items. On-site backups. On-site backups give you the ability to recover quickly from everyday problems like accidental deletions or a server crash. They drastically reduce downtime because everything you need is right there. Then you have your off-site backups, which help protect you from the big stuff: fires, floods, ransomware, anything that impacts your primary location. Without off-site copies, you're one major incident away from losing everything. So have both on-site and off-site components. A strong backup strategy uses both. On-site gives you speed, off-site gives you resilience. If you're missing one, the other can't fully protect you. And really, most importantly, test your backups. A backup you've never tested is a backup you should assume won't work. Testing makes sure your data is actually recoverable and that your investment pays off if you ever need it. Is my hardware end of life? Aging hardware is one of the biggest contributors to downtime, slow systems, and security vulnerabilities. Budgeting for hardware lifecycle isn't optional, it's essential. So make sure your budget accommodates hardware replacements. All hardware, like we said earlier, has a lifespan. Servers, switches, and endpoints eventually become unreliable, unsupported, or even too slow to keep up with modern demands. You have your hardware upgrades. Sometimes the equipment doesn't need to be replaced, but it does need more memory, storage, or processing power to keep performing well. Newer upgrade software licenses. When you upgrade hardware, you often need updated software to go with it. New operating systems, firmware, or application versions. Data migration and backup. Anytime hardware is replaced, your data has to be moved. That requires planning, labor, and sometimes specialized tools. You have extended warranties and support contracts. These protect you from large, unexpected repair costs. Once hardware moves out of warranty, the risk and cost of failure go up dramatically. You have your third-party support and decommissioning. When equipment is retired, it needs to be wiped, disposed of, or recycled securely. That process carries costs too. And then contingency funds. Even with good planning, things do break unexpectedly. Having contingency funds prevents those emergencies from derailing the rest of your budget. So, some action items. Assess the age of your hardware assets. When we talk about end of life, the first step is simply knowing what you have and how old it is. If you don't have a current inventory with purchase dates, warranties, and support status, it's almost impossible to plan. So the very first action item is to collect that information. Identify any assets at or near end of life. Once you know what you have, the next step is to spot those red flags. Anything that's out of warranty, no longer supported by the manufacturer, or consistently causing issues should move to the top of your list. These assets are the ones that carry the most risk. And then budget for upgrades. Upgrading hardware is an investment, but it does pay for itself over time. Newer systems run more efficiently, have fewer failures, and require less support. Budgeting for upgrades ahead of time turns unexpected emergencies into planned transitions. Replacing hardware before it fails reduces downtime, improves productivity, and keeps your environment stable. The upfront costs are typically much lower than the cost of emergency repairs, outages, or lost productivity. And one huge item to note, Windows Server 2016 is end of life January 12th of 2027. Microsoft is ending support, meaning no more security patches, fixes, or updates. Once that happens, the server becomes a major liability. Unsupported systems are really the first thing attackers look for. They're easy targets because vulnerabilities never get fixed. And as software becomes outdated, it becomes unstable. That means crashes, slowdowns, unexpected outages become far more common. Also, denied cyber insurance claims can happen. Insurance carriers are tightening their requirements. If a breach happens on unsupported software, the insurer can deny the claim. That leaves the city responsible for the full cost of recovery. So, if you have a 2016 server in your environment, it should absolutely be on your budget roadmap now, not a year from now. Have I recently evaluated our ISP or telecom provider? So use IT professionals to help you shop for options. Internet and telecom services change constantly. Pricing, speed, and reliability all shift year to year. IT professionals can help you compare what you have with what's now available, so you're not locked into outdated or overpriced contracts. Evaluate whether you can reduce costs or increase service quality. Sometimes you don't need to switch providers. Just renegotiate. Other times, switching gives you more bandwidth or more reliable service at a lower cost. The key is periodically checking so you're not overpaying or stuck with poor performance. Are my IT support costs unpredictable? Look at your cost patterns. A good starting point is to look back. Do your monthly or yearly support expenses swing wildly? If you can't reliably predict costs, budgeting becomes almost impossible. Compare proactive support models. Proactive IT support typically gives you a fixed cost with far fewer surprises. If you're currently in a reactive model, paying only when something breaks, you're more likely to deal with unexpected charges and emergency projects. Consider switching to predictable fixed cost support. A predictable support plan bundles many commonly needed services into one monthly amount. This helps stabilize your budget and reduces unexpected invoices. So, when your IT is monitored and maintained proactively, a lot of emergencies never happen in the first place. Predictive maintenance prevents small issues from snowballing into costly repair events. A stable environment means your team isn't sitting idle waiting for systems to come back online. But when systems do go down, like payment systems or essential services, it affects residents and can disrupt revenue. So proactive management helps avoid these issues. All right, now we'll take a look at IT budgeting tips, tricks, and best practices. Hiring a full-time IT employee, not a good investment for smaller cities. Let technology spur your vision. You need IT budgeting items for police, fire, and water sewer departments, as well as presenting to council. So, having a full-time IT employee, not a good investment for smaller cities. Full-time employee costs. So let's start taking a look at what a full-time IT employee actually costs a city. Even before we talk about skills or coverage, the raw cost alone is significant. Once you factor in salary and benefits, you are easily crossing the $100,000 mark for just one person. And that's for a single role with a very specific skill set. A single IT employee can really only specialize in so many areas. A systems administrator is great at what they're trained for, but IT is huge. Cybersecurity, networking, servers, backup systems, cloud platforms. Not one person can be an expert in all of them. Smaller cities end up with gaps simply because it's impossible for one individual to cover every domain. And realistically, 40 hours a week may be more than you need. For smaller cities, the workload simply doesn't justify a full-time position. You may have long stretches when there's nothing major to do, right up until there's a crisis. So you're paying full-time wages for part-time needs. And then you face the coverage problem. What happens when that one person goes on vacation, gets sick, or leaves for another job? Suddenly the city is without support, and usually at the worst possible time. There's no redundancy, no backup plan, and no safety net. Now let's compare that to working with a managed service provider. With an MSP, you're paying a predictable monthly fee, typically much lower than the cost of a full-time employee. And you get access to an entire team of IT professionals. The per-user cost model is extremely efficient for small cities. For example, a city with around 30 users is likely paying somewhere in the range of around $54,000 to $63,000 a year. That's almost half of what a full-time person would cost. And you're getting far more expertise. And not only that, you're getting 24/7, 365 coverage. That means no sick days, no vacation gaps, and no single point of failure. You always have support available regardless of the day or time, and MSP doesn't sleep. And like I said, you also get a team, not just one person. You're essentially gaining access to specialists in networking, cybersecurity, servers, cloud systems, compliance, you name it. Instead of one person trying to do everything, you have those experts handling each area. And an awesome thing, you get a strategic advisor too. This is the part cities often find most valuable. An MSP provides sometimes someone who helps you think beyond today's issues, mapping out your 3 to 5 year technology plan, ensuring your infrastructure stays healthy, and helping you budget in a predictable, proactive way. Let technology spur your vision. Connect your city's vision with technology. When we think about IT, it's easy to focus on hardware, software, and day-to-day maintenance. But technology should be tied directly to your city's long-term goals. This is where it helps to bring your leadership team, department heads, and your IT experts into the same room. When everyone understands the vision, whether that's improving resident services, modernizing operations, or preparing for growth, technology becomes a tool that moves you towards that vision instead of something you're constantly reacting to. List the projects you want to accomplish in the next 3 to 5 years. A great exercise is to map out the major initiatives you want to tackle over the next few years. Maybe that's a new permitting system, an upgrade to public safety tools, or modernizing communications or improving infrastructure. Once you have those goals identified, your IT advisor can help assess which tools, systems, and upgrades are needed to support those projects and how to phase those into your budget. And don't forget operational goals. Look for ways to increase your efficiency. This is also a good time to look at areas where things could simply just run better. Are there manual processes right now that could be automated? Are there departments like public safety, finance, or city hall struggling with old systems that slow them down? Often technology can streamline workflows, reduce errors, and save staff time. These improvements add up quickly. And always think about the resident experience. At the end of the day, technology should make life easier for the people you serve. That might mean better communication tools, more intuitive online services, or faster response times. When we design technology around resident needs, we create a better experience and build trust in city services. So, unique IT budgeting for police, fire, and water sewer departments. Police. Police departments rely on some of the most specialized technology in the entire organization. CAD systems, body-worn cameras, in-car video, digital evidence platforms, they all require storage, cybersecurity, and lifecycle replacements. These systems can't be treated like general IT purchases because they come with strict compliance requirements and substantial data demands. Fire departments also have specific needs, from CAD systems to alerting systems and EMS software. Their technology is tied directly to emergency response times. If these tools aren't maintained, updated, or funded properly, it has a direct impact on public safety. As well as water sewer. Water and sewer departments often operate independently and have highly specialized systems, customer information systems, and mobile workforce tools. These are critical infrastructure systems, and they require their own budgeting, planning, cybersecurity protections, and lifecycle management. Then you also have presenting to council. So you want to connect the non-technical to the technical. The purchase of new hardware may connect to security and productivity issues. When presenting to council, try to frame hardware needs in everyday terms. Instead of talking about processors or memory, explain the impact. Employees are slowed down by old computers, which affects productivity, and outdated equipment becomes harder to secure against cyber threats. So a hardware upgrade isn't just a technical refresh, it's directly tied to keeping staff productive and keeping the city secure. The purchase of new software may connect to serving residents more effectively. New software is rarely about bells and whistles. It's usually about improving the services our residents rely on, whether that's permitting, payments, communication tools, or internal efficiency. When council understands that software improvements lead to better resident experiences, the conversation becomes much easier. Using a municipal experience managed service provider connects to cybersecurity, data loss, and compliance risks. Council doesn't need the technical deep dive on firewalls or monitoring systems. What they do need to hear is that partnering with experts reduces risk. It protects the city from data breaches, helps ensure compliance with state and federal requirements, and prevents costly outages. This ties the decision to risk reduction, not just an IT expense. And a website redesign may positively impact tourism, economic development, and business attraction. A website update may seem like a cosmetic project, but it's actually one of the city's most important public-facing tools. A modern user-friendly website increases transparency, supports tourism, helps build new businesses, discover opportunities in your community, and makes it easier for residents to engage with city services. When council sees the economic and community impact, they understand the value. So now take a look at a small city budget example. So smaller cities can keep IT budgeting simple. Just a few line items go a long way. For a city around 5,000 residents, you don't need dozens of line items to have a strong IT budget. The goal is clarity, identifying what's going on versus what's project-based. So you have your hardware. These are your annual maintenance and warranty costs, things like server warranties and firewall renewals. They keep your existing equipment functioning and secure. You have your software. This category includes the tools staff rely on every day, Microsoft 365, VoIP phone systems, and monitoring software. These are recurring annual expenses and should be predictable. Services. These are your managed IT services, backup services, website hosting, and domain renewals. Again, predictable operational costs to keep things running smoothly. Projects. Then you have capital expenditures like switch replacements or major software upgrades. These are one-time costs you can plan for in advance. And then there's hardware lifecycle replacement. Finally, that's hardware that's approaching end of life, like servers or older computers, and that should be planned into your budget a year or two before they expire. This prevents those emergency purchases. Now, a medium city budget example. As cities grow, the IT budget naturally becomes more complex. With more staff, more systems, and more departments, medium-sized cities start to see a mix of ongoing operational spending and larger capital investments. You again have your hardware. This includes desktop replacements, monitors, firewalls, switches, servers, storage, wireless access points, and printers. These items follow a multi-year life cycle, so planning for replacements gradually prevents big spikes in spending. You have your operational expenses, including personnel, training, support contracts, that Microsoft 365 licensing, public safety systems, disaster recovery tools, endpoint protection, VoIP phone services, and VPN services. These are predictable recurring costs and make up a large portion of the budget in medium-sized cities. Software and licensing. Some software still requires capital investment, like server software, database systems, financial software, or systems that require heavy implementation. These are big-ticket items that need to be budgeted strategically. And then you also have your internal applications. Departments like finance, public safety, and administration rely on specialized applications. These systems often come with licensing, support, and compliance requirements that need consistent funding. All right, so how cities are adding now AI to budgets. So what are AI-related investments that your city should have in your budget? Licensing for AI-powered productivity tools. Cities are starting to include AI tools like AI writing assistants or automated meeting tools within their regular software budgets. These tools help staff work more efficiently, reduce administrative time, and streamline communication. Budgeting for licensing upfront ensures departments can actually adopt these tools where they make sense. AI-enhanced cybersecurity monitoring. Cybersecurity tools are increasingly using AI to detect threats faster and more accurately. These systems can identify abnormal behavior or attempted attacks in real time. You have AI-driven data analytics and data governance. AI makes it easier for cities to understand trends like service usage, traffic patterns, or staffing needs, but it requires strong data hygiene. Budgeting for analytics tools and data governance helps you make better decisions based on real insights instead of guesswork. Many cities are also adding AI chatbots to their websites to answer common resident questions 24/7. This helps reduce call volume improves response times, and makes information more accessible. You also don't need brand new software to use AI. Many systems you already pay for, like permitting platforms or communication tools, offer AI add-ons. Budgeting for those upgrades ensures you can take advantage of the new features. Even with great tools, your system needs to know how to use them properly and safely. Training ensures everyone understands how to use AI ethically and avoid risks like data exposure or misinformation. And then every city is different. Setting aside small pilot funds lets you test AI in a controlled way, maybe in public works, finance, or code enforcement, before rolling it out citywide. So some AI budgeting examples. Microsoft Copilot and Microsoft 365 licensing. Some AI tools like Copilot are becoming part of existing licensing. This is a great example of AI showing up in your budget, even if you're not actively purchasing new tools. AI-enhanced GIS tools. Platforms now include AI features that help with mapping, analysis, and projecting future needs like utility growth or infrastructure planning. Additional cloud computing and storage. AI tools often need more computing power and storage, especially for things like traffic modeling or resource forecasting. That means budgeting for expanded cloud resources. Investments in broadband, fiber, 5G, and redundancy. As cities use more AI, the amount of data being transferred grows significantly. Upgrading network infrastructure ensures your environment can support those higher demands. Data cleanup and management costs. AI requires clean, structured data to work effectively. Otherwise, we end up with inaccurate results. So budgeting for data cleaning and ongoing maintenance helps IT deliver meaningful insights. Then there's training for your staff. Your team needs to understand how to use AI tools, avoid misuse, and recognize when something doesn't seem right. Training is a crucial piece of AI adoption. And then you have your vendor partnerships and consultant costs. Many cities partner with AI vendors or consultants to help implement new tools or develop use cases. Those costs should be factored into your planning as well. So some AI budgeting tips. Keep your IT budget flexible. AI is changing fast, faster than most budgeting cycles. So keeping a bit of flexibility in your budget gives you the ability to adopt helpful AI tools without waiting an entire year. Vet vendors carefully. There is a lot of hype in the AI space. Not every tool is right for government use. So make sure vendors can clearly explain to you the security, compliance, data handling, and real-world results, not just flashy marketing. Clean up your data. Like I said, AI is only as good as the data you feed it. If your city hasn't invested in data cleanup or governance, this is a great time to start. Clean data means better AI outputs and fewer mistakes. And then also, of course, be careful about introducing new risks. AI can create new vulnerabilities like exposing sensitive information or producing incorrect responses. Before implementing AI, make sure you're thinking through security, privacy, and compliance impacts. Cities are increasingly leveraging AI to enhance efficiency, improve services, and address various challenges. And this can go from public safety and emergency response to water management, waste management, urban planning and development, resident services, traffic management, and optimization, energy efficiency, and then even smart infrastructure management. So some AI trends in 2026. Expect more AI integration into municipal platforms. We're also expecting to see more data-driven decision support tools. And really, regulatory scrutiny will likely increase around AI use in government. Like I said, there are those compliance factors that are super important to make sure you take a look at when thinking about implementing AI. And then also expect more funding opportunities tied to AI adoption. This is an increasing topic of discussion, and everyone is moving along with it. So expect, as I said, more funding opportunities leading to AI as it becomes more and more applicable to people's environments. So you're not alone. VC3 can help. No standardized IT budgeting process or template exists for municipalities, and so it's approached differently by many cities and towns. More detailed IT budgets can help you uncover inefficiencies, save you money, and allow you to better execute operational goals. Budgeting isn't just about the amount of money you spend, it's about spending on the right things and predicting when you need to make investments. So you can download our white paper or use the QR code here. I know in the chat the link has been, we can put the link in there for leading you to our guide on municipal IT budget planning. And if you're ready for the next step and would like to get more information, you can reach out to Shane at shane.glenn@vc3.com or simply just go to VC3's website to get started. That is all I have for everybody here today. So if you have any questions, please let me know. But I sincerely appreciate your time and thank you for learning more about IT budgeting.
And before we log off, I do just want to open it up. If anyone has questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A or the chat. Hannah, I'm not seeing anything come through, but I'm not surprised because you did a very amazing job explaining budgeting. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Have a fabulous rest of your day, everyone.